Your business MIS is also a very powerful source of information. What kind of transactions are happening in your overall book? Where the assets are concentrated, or how many funds that your clients have bought through you? How frequently the transactions are happening? What is the average ticket size of the transaction? Whether it is lump sum or SIP, all this can be obtained from your business MIS. So if you are using a software which is a typical, portfolio reporting software, it has a provision to collect this data. And this data, if you don't collect there, the feeds are available from the registrar and transfer agencies, and they should be enough to get this data. These are some of the sources of data. Other sources of data are the way you observe things, the way you converse with your clients, and that's where the next source of data is the personal cash flow of the client. I'm highlighting two major points out here. The first is professional based or profession related cash flow. Look at the 2 points that I've mentioned. If a client is salesperson in an organization, a lot of salespersons earn target-based incentive. At what frequency is the target-based incentive coming? If a person is working in an organization, majority of the organizations, majority of the times have annual increments. Now, these are the time periods to go and have a meeting. There is a saying that strike when the iron is hot. This is where the iron is hot. Money is available. And sometimes, if you don't approach, advertisers are anyway approaching the client, asking him to upgrade the mobile phone or upgrade the television. So they are always there. That temptation of spending money is always there, but you can go and have a meaningful discussion about future goals, or how this additional cash flow can come in handy to take care of the future requirements. Profession is not the only source. There could also be investment related sources of cash flow. Maturity of a debenture, interest income, dividends coming from some of the investments that one has done. One thing I've observed, and anyway, it's a personal opinion, I'll not spend a lot of time on that personal opinion, but I find it very surprising that most of the equity mutual fund investments are in the dividend payout plan. That's okay. If that's the case, if the investment is through you, should you have a record of when the client is supposed to get the dividend in the bank? Shouldn't that money flow back into the investments? If that money doesn't flow back into the investments, then it is spent. And if it is spent, the client loses the benefit of compounding. If you have this information easily available, you don't have to really work very hard. So let's say some of you probably recommended investment in some of those tax-free bonds which came a couple of years back. NHAI pays interest on 1st October every year. If you know that, all the investors who bought those bonds, can't you schedule a meeting in the month of September? And then there are other observations when you go and meet your clients. Where does one stay? What location? Which area one is residing at? One of my friends, a friend of mine, loves to stay in the hills. So I joke with him that in Bombay you got 3 major options to stay in the hills: Pali Hill, Malabar Hill, and Antop Hill. Yeah. So those of you who are familiar with Bombay geography know what Antop Hill means. But if somebody is staying in Pali Hill versus somebody staying in Antop Hill, you know the financial stature, the difference between the two. Location tells you a story. The vehicle that one uses tells you a story. The vacations one takes or the leisurely activities that one carries out also tells you a story. And lastly, what kind of books one reads, what kind of movies one watches, what kind of newspapers or magazines one reads, also gives you an insight into what kind of client you are talking about. We don't have enough data in India to do this kind of correlation, but some of you might have observed, and I'm only talking about observation. If research is available, it'll be great. I don't think it's available right now. But is it possible to find out how many of the people taking foreign vacations are investing in mutual funds, for example? Can we have one such correlation? Or how many people who are taking frequent foreign vacations are investing in international funds? How many of these people who are living in, okay, I'm coming to that in some time. So I'll stop at this point, but I'll come to that. And that's where the insights come in. And something brilliant was said by this lady. She was the president of Hewlett Packard company, Carly Fiorina. She said the goal is to turn data into information and information into insights. So let's look at what areas the insights can be used. I could identify 6 areas. Business opportunities. How do you plan your business? What are the risks or threats to your business? Is there anything you can do about investment advice? Okay, investment advisor, you're better at that, but I'll still touch upon a couple of points. Any trends and preferences are changing, and what does it mean? And finally, you look at client objections through the eyes of data. And here is a very, very basic point about business opportunity. And this is an exercise that I've asked a lot of people to do in many of the programs. And almost every time that I've said, at least 3 or 4 people's eyes light up in the audience. Minus of your top 10 or 20 clients, you go down. So leave out your top 10 or 20 clients. You go down below. There are 2 questions to ask. How many members are there in the family of this client? And number 2, in how many names do you have investment folios? If there are 5 members in the family, should you have at least 5 names in which there are folios created? If not, then you are missing out on an opportunity which is actually a sitting duck. With this client, you don't have to go and introduce who you are, what your qualifications are, what your expertise is, which areas you can help him in. That is already known. But sometimes, for whatever reasons, some things are missed out. Reason number 1. When I went to meet a particular client, surplus money was available only in 2 accounts. The other 2, there was no surplus money in the bank. So at that time, no folios were created. Or, I already had all the members of the family as my clients, and one of the guys got married, and his wife is yet not my client. Simple things. Periodically, if you keep checking that, opportunities start opening up. And here is something that happened. Now, one of my neighbors was thinking of selling his flat. So we just had a discussion about it. And I said, why do you want to sell your flat? Why do you want to go out from this locality? This is such a wonderful place and you've been staying here for so long. Now, his problem was very, very simple and genuine problem. And that's when I said, location, which kind of house that one is living in. And this probably may be a typical Bombay problem or maybe a very large city problem. This guy has got 2 sons and they are living in a 2-bedroom house flat. So 2-bedroom flat, 2 sons. When the elder one gets married, will that house be sufficient? Even if they can accommodate for some time, the younger one lives in the drawing room, but when the younger one gets married, what will happen? Enormous amount of insight from this one incident. Check up your data. If you have this kind of a family as your client, the moment the elder one comes into 12th standard, you have an opportunity to set a goal to create initial corpus for another house or a larger house. Business opportunity. At least you can start the discussion. These are certain examples, but other than, so that's a potential business. But otherwise also you can look at this kind of a grid. And if you are, let's say, transitioning from a typical distribution business to a broad-based financial advisory business looking at financial planning, then in that case, one of the products out here would be your financial planning or financial advisory services. Make a grid like this, where here you got all the client families' names, and here you got various products. Whatever you are offering, whether you are a product seller or a service provider. Within services, are you providing comprehensive services only or only a limited part of it? Put that down and then start putting a tick mark against whatever you offer to the client. All the blank spaces are your opportunities shouting at you. Little bit of data, digging out from your MIS, and it starts throwing opportunities. From opportunities, let's move on to the next one, which is business planning. In business planning, I'll highlight 2 points. Number one, mutual fund distributors. As mutual fund distributors, you earn either upfront income or trail income or a combination of both. But in certain cases, the trail was upfronted. Whenever trail was upfronted, there is a potential risk of clawbacks whenever redemptions happen. Now, between trail and upfront can be recurring only if you get additional clients or additional business. Trail accrues to you as long as you are able to retain the client and the assets. Both require different ways of handling the business. In one case, you have to continuously keep acquiring. In the other case, you have to focus on retention. Your way of business can change based on what kind of income you have. And wherever there is a clawback, I would simply suggest assume a certain percentage of money which is going to go out. So some amount of money is going to go out in form of clawback. Just park that much money in a liquid fund. That's your reserve that you created. That's your buffer that you created. Or sometimes when you have to look at large expenses, for example, renovating your office, shifting to another office, hiring a new team member. Now, in this case, only detailed data will help you. If you are doing your business in a financial planning way, and if you collected that data, if large number of client goals are coming together in one particular period, that means you are expecting large amounts of redemption in that period. Don't plan any expense at that point in time, because you are going to lose some income simply because the goals have realized, or work harder to get new business to compensate for that, whichever way you want to look at it. Planning is very simple to talk about, but very difficult in real life, because there is this particular element which is always present. There are a few risks that we'll talk about. Risk number one, is there concentration among only a few clients? So I've come across some IFAs where, I was talking to one particular IFA, he had around 130 clients. And out of these 130 clients, his top 3 clients accounted for 60% of total AUM. The other 127 accounted for 40%. So if one of these 3 decides to go away, or even worse, if one of these top 3 passes away, the next generation may not be interested in continuing with you. Huge risk. Concentration is always a problem. But at the same time, one can look at this also, that can you draw an average client's profile out of this, out of whatever client list that you have? Can you identify whether you are specializing in one particular area, whether you are concentrating in one area? Because based on that, you can develop various other expertise. Needs could be common across that segment, and you can always get more and more references from that segment. You can really specialize. A couple of speakers spoke about developing that expertise, Uma, Vishal. If that's the case, is it possible to identify which area you are talking about? Another way you can look at is how many of your clients are profitable. Profitable client means profit. Normally we talk about revenue minus expenses. I'm adding two other elements, revenue minus expenses, and along with expenses, time and effort required, as well as the headache element. Some clients are such. You add that and that's your profitability matrix. Okay, I've mentioned something, but I would like to use another example. Once again, talking to some financial planner, we realized something was terribly wrong with our own point of view. In most discussions, we financial advisors or people in the financial services, we highlight that children's education is a more important goal than the marriage. Between the two, but when we looked at the financial advisors' data, financial planners' data, it spoke about something completely different. The money allocated for education goal was 1/3 of the money allocated for marriage goals. So who's right? The financial advisor or the client? It's always the client because it's his life. The way he wants to live, you can only help him live that life. You can't dictate how he should live the life. I've got two more points and then we'll finish. You can look at trends. So let me give you some numbers, and I have not put those numbers deliberately on the slide, but I'm looking at not the client data, I'm looking at the global data across India, the way the investors are behaving. If we understand that crowd is right, then let me share two data points, two particular periods where for the quarter average Sensex level was 19,000. The first period is December 2007 to February 2008. Average Sensex level was around 19,000. And few years later, July 13 to September 13, another three-month period where Sensex was around 19,000. What was happening then? In the first period, Sensex 19,000, equity mutual funds across the country received net of redemptions 24,900 crores. And July to September 2013, average Sensex level of 19,000, mutual fund industry received net redemptions of 3,600 crores. So if crowd is right, then after the first instance, the market should go up, and after the second instance, the market should go down. All of us know what happened in reality. December 2007, February 2008, after that, sometime later, Sensex was at 9,000 points. So after people invested 25,000 crores, it went down from 19 to 9. And after they withdrew 3,600, Sensex went up from 19,000 to 28,000. I think this is another very insightful data. Check up what your clients are doing, whether they are also doing this one-time lump sum investments or they are onto SIP. The clients who did SIP had lesser regret as compared to clients who did lump sum. Our business is very interesting. In a typical sales training program, they say that objections happen at the time of selling. In our business, objections happen at the time of selling, at the time of redemptions, and any time in between. It's a different business altogether. How you handle objections can also be derived from the data that tells you what's happening in this case. One of the data just I mentioned about the market levels and how the clients want to get in and get out. Another data point is the moment the clients start talking about same language, remind them of the old times. Very often, and you heard this very often, यार इक्विटी में इतना पैसा बढ़ गया तो भी थोड़ा निकाल के प्रॉपर्टी ले ले, or at all-time high of the market, should we get out? Or should I wait for another correction? These are typical objections which come at various points in time. What do you do in that case? You either look at your own client's data and show him lump sum versus SIP, or you look at this global data which I just talked about. Do some of these things. Keep using data, and I've already overrun my time, so let me end this presentation. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we are always there.
Amit, you talked about converting data into analysis, rather insights. Now, many of the IFAs here have hundreds of clients. Now, what would you recommend to them? Should they be starting to mine data for all the hundreds of clients they have, or should they prioritize it? What are your views?
So, Prem, it depends on what kind of insights you want to start with. Let's first of all look at concentration, data on concentration, client concentration. So if you're looking at business risk, then you don't really have to mine a lot of data. A simple register of your client's assets, which is easily available from the R&T agents. If you compile that, then you get to know that out of this whatever number of clients, top 3 or top 5 or top 10 account for so much. So that could be as simple as that. But preparing that grid, that would require a lot of data mining. I have come across a few IFAs. 100 clients was a little easier. This was one gentleman who had 3,500 clients. With 3,500 clients and around, I think, 9 or 10 different product categories. So he was into mutual funds, life insurance. Within general insurance, they were into health insurance, vehicle insurance, disability insurance. Then they also had post office schemes, PPF, and fixed deposits. Now with such a large product bouquet and such a large number of clients, it took putting one person dedicated to do data mining and put everything in Excel sheet, it took around a month and a half. But then with that large number of clients, 3,500 clients, that effort was worth more than, yeah. So depends on what kind of data you are looking at. But yeah, eventually some time, if not now, a few years later, we'll have to move into data mining as the size becomes bigger and bigger. Because data tells you something completely different from our own biases. We often go with our biases. Data tells you reality. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Friends, we've come to the end of this event. I'll just take another 2 minutes to express my gratitude to all the people who've made this event happen. So my first thanks to all the speakers who have worked very hard at creating content which is made specifically for this audience. There was, I assure you, there was not one presentation that was made today, which you would have heard at any other event or on any other occasion. As Ashish shared with you, Ashish Somaya, he spent the entire day preparing this presentation for your benefit. Prashant Jain, I can also assure you that was a very original presentation. That is not a presentation which is made to any other set of audiences. This has been the first audience to which that presentation was exposed. So let's give a big round of applause to all the speakers who came today. A big round of applause to all our sponsors, starting with our platinum partners, ICICI Prudential and Canara Robeco, our gold partner, Motilal Oswal, our silver partners, Birla Sun Life and Union KBC, and plus all our supporting partners. A big thanks to the event manager who's put all this together and made it all possible. So, thanks, Sailesh. Sailesh, where are you? Sailesh? Okay. And lastly, thanks to all of you for being here. You've been a wonderful, very patient audience, and you've had to bear with time shortages. We have cut short the breaks, and we've cut short our lunch time, and so that we could stick to the timing. So thank you for being here.